You are ready to go.
Members, are you ready to start? Ready to start?
Yep, thank you.
Good morning and welcome to today's meeting. I would officially like to declare the meeting open at 9:30 a.m. and acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and are joined by people from other lands around the state. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. Today's meeting will be run in accordance with the RDAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development RDAP Regulations of 2011. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the RDAP website in accordance with the Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development RDAP Regulations 2011. The panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. Today's members, we have a full composite of members, or have 4 members, sorry. To my furthest left, we have Councillor Chris Norton. Joining Chris is Nima Frenji, Specialist Member. To my immediate left is Eugene Coltas, Deputy Presiding Member. My name is Francesca Lafanti, Presiding Member. We have an apology from one councillor from the Shire of Three Springs, Councillor Jenny Muter. There are no members on leave of absence, and minutes for this meeting, as our other meetings, will be available on the RDAP website. We have one item on today's agenda, and we will now move through to that item. Members, we are dealing with our item in relation to Three Springs, and can I have a show of hands that you have duly considered all matters in relation to this proposal, including the documentation contained in Part B of the agenda and Part B related information? That is unanimous for the minute taker. Members, are there any disclosures of interest? Is this item at all considered by council or the briefing session?
It was at the briefing session. It never went over ethnic gender identity, so no decision has been made.
Okay, so we'll just make a note that it was considered at a briefing session, but no items made, and a full approval is granted for full participation, including voting on the item. Any other members have any other involvement? Thank you. We will move forward to our item. It is lot 10896 Turkey Flat Road. It's a proposed renewable energy facility. We do have one presentation. It's from Renee Young from Element Advisory. In accordance with the RDAP Standing Orders, as you are aware, Renee, the clause 4.8.2, the presentation is limited to 3 minutes. We have received your presentation, and you've seen today that members have considered the proposal and the information contained in it. And I will now hand over to yourself before going to questions from panel. After that, we'll go to Shire officers and back to questions from panel. Hand over to yourself.
Good morning, RDAP members. I don't propose to go through the slide by slide because I'll take it as read as you've all considered the material. But I will just flip to this slide. So we've got an application here by Trina Solar, a very experienced provider of solar and battery facilities around the world. This is their second major application in WA. The first one was in Kemerton. This site is in Three Springs, situated on a parcel of land which has the 330 kilowatt Western Power Western Power line running through it for easy access. The site's been carefully selected. I will just go to the to make the most use of that Western Power line. It's also been, the application's been carefully resolved to look at things like retaining the existing vegetation on site and other such constraints. And the application's been supported by a full raft of specialist technical reports that demonstrate that it's suitable in terms of noise, transport, vegetation, and noise, which I already mentioned. The application was publicly advertised. There were no submissions received from members of the public, and in terms of the referrals to state agencies, all their comments were reasonable and have been addressed by the Shire in the recommended conditions and advice notes. And there were only three minor changes that we'd request to conditions, and it was just in relation to conditions 4, 8 and 10, which had a reference to the landowner. And given that Trina Solar will be the applicant being a leasee and a operator, we would just ask that those three references to landowner be changed by the DAP today. But other than that, we'd ask that the DAP support the Shire's recommendation and approve the application. And both Edward and I are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions to the applicant? Yes,
Yes, I have a few questions. First of all, have you received your water license? Isn't it in water?
The water license was currently held by the landowner, which is Extension Hill PDY Ltd. And they already gave us a concern that once the project goes into construction and operation, they can sign an agreement for us to access their water license. And their current water license, if I remember correctly, is 5.5 million tons per year. That is for their future mining operation.
My next question is, have you received your EGL from ERA, Federation license?
We don't have a connection.
The generation license, yes, the generation license, we will apply it, but not at this stage because currently we are applying for the connection approval or connection agreement with Western Power. And that is the first step. After that, we will register in one market with AEMO.
Yeah.
And after we register with AEMO, then the GLA or generation license is the third step.
Okay. And just wanted to query you on something. Condition 21. When I read that, I was a bit curious, which I'm quite familiar with ERA. I audit their licenses.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a 3 months notice that you give the local government when you're looking at decommissioning. If that were to be changed to 12 months, which aligns with ERA license conditions, would the applicant have any objections?
You mean that decommissioning notice changing from a current, from current 3 months to 12 months?
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a big issue. Yeah, I don't think that would be a big issue.
All right, thank you. That's fine.
thank you. Are there any other questions from panel members?
Yes, just from me.
Eugene Cortes.
You've had approval for another one in Western Australia, at Kemerton. How large was that?
It's a 330 megawatts standalone battery. There's no solar farm attached to that.
Okay.
So it's located in the Shire of Harvey.
Yes.
So and just within the Kemerton strategic industry area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I remember correctly, we got the DA approved 10th of December last year.
Yeah, and that one was just for storage facility.
Yeah, it's a storage of that.
Just as an interest, this 600,000 panels.
Mm-hmm.
What's the sort of capacity? How much power is that in layman's terms? How many households does that service?
Well,
I know it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's very. Think about typical household. If you think about typical household, it will be 10 kilowatts for a typical household. So this one is 400 megawatts.
Yeah.
So you can do the math very quickly. That would
Okay.
be what? Four 400,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, 400,000. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and will this be staged?
No, we intend to build it in one stage.
One stage,
Yeah.
okay. All right, advice note. Advice note in the Shire of Three Springs Medical Community Benefits Scheme. Is there, have you started entering into that agreement with the council, or is there a planning policy or scheme provision for that agreement?
No, there is no planning provision for it. So recently released is the Powering WA guidelines, which is a whole of government policy, but there's no locally adopted policy around contribution. So Trina Solar, it's a bit preemptive at the moment to agree particular amounts until they get a connection license next year and know for certainty that the project is going ahead.
Yeah.
But certainly Edward has been in discussions with the Shire of Three Springs at the initial briefing meeting with councillors, and it's always intended that there will be some sharing of community benefits, but the detail of that needs to be resolved.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar, I think there was a previous five power station or something with Strike Energy, and this provision was mentioned as well. So, okay, well, I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. They're probably more planning questions. And you haven't got the documents in front of you. Particularly, so a couple of questions. Condition 4 refers to a landscape plan. I have the same questions to Shire officers as well. I didn't see a landscape plan in the documentation. There's a visual impact assessment and there's no landscape plan. The plans in attachment 1 show an elevation. Essentially, they show a fence and trees which appear to be outside the property. So my question really relates to this condition. What landscaping plan is there that's been submitted, and what landscaping is being proposed in the site? The documentation that I've read appears to indicate, and the visual assessment referred to this as being within the road reserve. So can you talk through landscaping relative to this site, what it is, and what you understand is proposed by condition 4?
There was no specific landscape plan provided with the pack, other than the visual impact assessment, which suggested that one mitigation measure would be some additional landscaping. I just need to bring up my copy of the agenda, but the wording in the visual impact assessment, I don't have that extract with me.
It predicted, it says here, a low visible impact as visibility is due to the screening effect of the landforms and vegetation. So I talked about that. I can probably point you to the point I was referring to. Electronic page for online, mitigation measures are electronic page 301. It talks about appear to relate to the road corridor and not on-site vegetation. I'm really trying to get clarity about what is expected out of this condition.
My understanding it would be on the inside of the site, within the not within the road reserve, but adjacent to the road reserve within the site. But I will just check that wording from the BIA.
So there's no approved landscaping plan that's currently submitted. Yeah.
No.
So it would need to be a proposed landscape.
Yeah, prepared in response to the condition and the advice note.
So you do want to continue on about what you're suggesting is the applicant's position? No.
So the words from the VIA were informal planting of native shrubs along the Eneabba Three Springs Road, northwestern side of the lease area.
So that's outside, correct? Is that outside the lease area? Is that in the road reserve?
To assist in minimising visual impacts of the project. Yes, so that would be in the road reserve.
Okay. So in the road reserve, who becomes responsible in the long term for maintaining that? And is there an agreement between the applicant and the Shire for planting and maintenance within the road reserve?
There's no current agreement. That would have to be resolved.
I have a similar question to yourself, Shire Officer Simon. And it talks about, so all of those points in there, are any of those on the subject site? So it's got-
Sorry, I was on mute when the presenter was speaking before in relation to the landscape plan, so I didn't catch a lot of that. So apologies if I do repeat what's just been said. Look, my understanding is it's the Eneabba Three Springs Road that is the road that has the traffic such that it is in vicinity to the site. So that would be the area where you would look to do landscaping, and there's the ability to do that within the Extension Hill property to the north, and that would be the area where you would concentrate any landscaping, and that's what the landscaping plan could then detail. So there's the ability to do it within the private land holding rather than the road reserve.
And is that private land holding subject of this application? The report refers to that there is other land holdings, but the land that you're specifically speaking about, is that subject of this application in front of us?
So it's not the actual lot that the solar farm's proposed to be on. So I guess what the landscape plan could then do, I guess, given that it's Extension Hill owning the property to the north as well, that would be the site where you could get the most effective landscape planting done to reduce the visual impact from basically the most trafficked road in the region.
I appreciate what you've said. I suppose if it's not part of this application, we don't have a legal mechanism to attach conditions on land that are not subject to the application we have before us. So I'm trying to clarify the purpose of condition 4 in the context of the proposal we have before us and where it is. And what I'm hearing is it's not on the subject site. It could be, but not part of this application, on other land holdings of the applicant or within the road reserve. So the language of condition 4 is unclear from my perspective as to what the obligation of the applicant on their site or the road reserve is in terms of both putting the landscaping or vegetation in and maintaining it. And I'm happy for either applicant or city, or Shire officers to speak, as it covers, I've got the same question to both of you.
Yeah.
Could you clarify for the applicant what you understand your obligation
I
is?
think looking at the VIA again, it says on the northwestern side of the lease area. So whilst it uses the word along Eneabba Three Springs Road, I think it's actually just poorly worded, and it means within the site, but on the northwestern side of the lease area within the site. Because Eneabba Three Springs Road is somewhat separated from the site.
Okay.
If I may.
Yes, it's on the subject, yes, definitely.
Condition 3 actually requires that prior to commencement of development, a landscape plan shall be submitted to the local government for approval. So that should capture where the landscaping has to be. So you've still got to submit one
Yes.
for approval, and then 4, you then have to implement and thereafter maintain. So I'm comfortable, I think, with condition 3 and 4 that you work out with the council that it occur on the land, the subject of this application.
So is that the understanding of both parties, that it is on the subject side? Okay, great. My second question is a similar question. It's around clarity. I understand the concerns you've raised regarding the language in those conditions, so I'm not raising those ones. Condition 12 and 13 and they link also to 16. And again, this ties back to the documentation and the conditions in your TIA, as I understand the TIA, which includes recommendations in point 8 and conclusions in point 9 of that document, talks about various general works. They talk about the dilapidation survey, traffic management plans and road upgrades. Are they adequately covered in those conditions? And it also relates to condition 2. So one says the traffic impact assessment prepared by SLR, dated the 1st of the 4th, 2025. And then you've got condition 12, condition 13 and condition 16. And my questions are really coming back to certainty and clarity about what is the applicant's obligation for roadworks and road maintenance. Is the understanding that those recommendations contained in the TIA are actually what we're referring to? Because it doesn't repeat in the condition. It only repeats it in point 1 where it refers to the whole TIA.
The advice notes provide some clarity around that. So advice note K specifically says in relation to condition 12, the Eniaga 3 Springs Turkey Flat Road intersection shall be upgraded with a basic right turn and basic left turn treatment to improve road safety. And Turkey Flat Road is to be sealed for a distance of 50 metres south of the Eniaga 3 Springs Road intersection to minimise the migration of gravel from Turkey Flat Road onto Eniaga 3 Springs Road. So advice note K has come from the SLR TIA.
So some of the other aspects in the SLR, the TIA, are they also incorporated into these conditions? Things like the dilapidation report, etc.
I think the dilapidation report, which is covered by, although not explicit, but condition 16, which puts the obligation on the applicant to maintain the roads.
And does the city office, sorry, the Shire offices, is that your understanding as well, that condition 16 covers that matters such as the dilapidation report? You're satisfied that it covers those?
Yeah, look, the wording, I guess, was to cover the 2 aspects of it. The initial construction phase where you can do a prior road analysis to determine what standard it was at, what it should be returned to, then the construction phase. But also, I guess, over the life of the project, there is the very real possibility that solar panels may be replaced as part of a significant portion or overall overhaul stage through the project, and it may outlast its initial life expectancy. So it was really to cover that aspect as well. You know, you had a significant maintenance program through there. There was a condition relating back to it, again, to say, look, leave the road as you found it at the end of that process.
Thank you. There were my only questions. Any other questions from panel members to the presenter? If not, we'll go to yourself, Simon. If you'd like to go through any comments in relation to this proposal that you wish to make from what you've heard today, or anything through on the RA, and then we'll go to general questions from panel members. Over to yourself.
I guess in relation to the initial points made by the presenter, just asking for landowner to be changed to applicant or some other terminology. No objection from the Shire to that. I note during the presentation it was referred to, look, during the advertising phase, it was mostly, really entirely government agencies that made comments. Probably reflects on the work the applicant has done into some prior consultation, but also probably the fact this is the 3rd solar farm DAP application probably in the last 2 years. There's been a gas processing one. There's probably a couple of wind farm ones on the horizon coming as well. So I think the community is fairly aware of these projects now. There's a lot of precedent now with the conditions and advice notes put on those previous applications. So it's probably not a new thing for the community to engage with. And, you know, when you go out on site, there's a very, very significant 330 kV transmission line running diagonally through the middle of the property. It's probably not a surprise that it really is in an attractive spot for renewable energy proponents to gravitate towards.
Thank you. Panel members, are there any questions to Shire Officer? Yes, Linda Prenton.
Yes, just for clarification, condition 4, happy with it, but when do you want that done? Prior to the construction, the upgrade of the intersection, is there a timeline for it? Because I can't, you're saying upgrade, I agree, but do you want it prior to the commencement of the operation, or prior to the commencement of construction, or prior to commissioning?
Look, in an ideal world, it'd be prior to it, but I guess each project that the Shire's seen come through, there's been a number of transmission lines, gas proposals, now solar farms. It can vary on the type of vehicles coming in there as well. There's been plenty of gas drilling rigs, quite significant vehicles, oversized, coming through. So I guess that is something that is open discussion between the Shire and the proponent as to when is the best time for that. Look, ideally, you would have it prior to with that intersection upgrade, but that's certainly something that I guess can be discussed with the proponent, depending on the time frame and at what point the various vehicles are coming and what the nature of those vehicles are as the construction project unfolds.
And so you don't specifically want to put a time frame now, you'd rather be a discussion between yourself and the applicant as to when you're going to do it.
I think that's reasonable.
Reasonable, okay. My next one was condition 21. You've probably heard it. You've got 3 months for the decommissioning of notice for local government. Do you have any objection if that was extended to 12 months?
No, certainly not. I guess the last part of that is then saying 2 years to then restore it. So I think those timeframes are fairly reasonable, given that in an ideal world, the solar farm will be there for longer than was originally intended, I guess, as technology improves and maybe panels have the ability to be replaced.
12 months is pretty common practice. Got another question. On page 20 of the draft, go to that. It's not the first, second, but the third paragraph. It's about the lighting, and it says that previous DAP approvals of solar farms have been made subject to condition that the applicant prepare a light reflection and emissions management plan that demonstrate how the proposed solar is not. I see that you don't have a condition on that. Does the Shire require a condition on that? On page 20, just above the heavily titled bushfire.
Sorry, I'll just find that.
We've also got the applicant to provide some of that response to after the Shire Officer.
That probably goes back a little bit. The very first solar farm in the Shire of Three Springs that went to RDAP, there was probably a degree of uncertainty about it. Are solar panels going to cause reflection? Is that going to be a distraction for drivers along roads? I guess as solar farms have become a little more commonplace, it's understood that no, they don't necessarily reflect. It's the point of them is to retain light and the angle that they're sited at. I guess the other aspect obviously is what lighting is generated anyway from the compound around the BESS and other things like that. So yeah, it's one that's been debated, I guess, in the past and was quite heavily weighted on some of the other large projects that have been looked at, like the gas processing one. But look, in this case, I guess where it is subject to it wasn't given as much weight this time around.
Would you like to provide applicants with comments and opinion?
I was just going to add that in this case, the visual impact assessment did actually specifically consider glare as part of its visual impact assessment and didn't identify that that was required as a mitigation measure. Whereas I think in the earlier ones, they didn't have a visual impact assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Panel members, are there any questions to Shire officers and or applicants? If there's not, we'll move back to the agenda. Thank you for presenters. There's a recommendation at the beginning of the RDAP recommendation for approval Is there a mover of the recommendation as written? It is moved. Eugene Coltas. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? It is seconded. Nima Prenji. Would the mover like to speak to it?
Yes, this application has been thoroughly assessed in terms of impact on the locality. The issues assessed were construction and traffic, and the traffic impact statement that was submitted assessed that low traffic volumes, negligible. In fact, in the main traffic impact is during construction, during operation, there's not considered to be a lot. The roads can certainly handle the capacity. I think the intersection upgrades that are required and condition are appropriate, and there are also conditions and anticipated maybe upgrades during the operation of the solar farm on the unsealed portion of the roads that have access to the property. So I'm satisfied with those construction and traffic issues. Noise assessment that was provided also showed that there's virtually no impact on nearby receptors. In fact, with 5 residents, the nearest is 1.4 kilometres away. And given that this is a fairly passive operation, there's no impact on any of those residents envisaged. Visual impact, we've discussed that, and of course there's the issue of glare that didn't present itself as a problem, and the only other impact on visual assessment is from nearby roads, and given that there's only one major road that's likely to impact in terms of number of vehicles travelling along it, and the other Three Springs Road, there is a condition to look at some screening vegetation. The other issues associated with it were bushfire. So a condition for a bushfire management plan to be implemented in conjunction with DFS comments. So I'm satisfied with those. Environmental and heritage issues have been covered, and not seem to be major impediments to, from a planning point of view anyway. Decommissioning conditions have been imposed on that, and I think that the decommissioning is a long way off. It hasn't even started it, so I don't think that there's an issue there. It's received significant community support from relevant referral authorities, and I think it's a significant and important infrastructure development for the state to achieve renewable energy targets, and therefore I'm supporting the proposal.
Thank you. The second would like to speak to the motion.
So the member, I concur with all the statements made so far. I'd support the recommendation in the report. There's a very thorough analysis that's been done by the applicant, and the suggestions or advice notes that have come back, technical advice that has been incorporated in the conditions and advisory notes. The bushfire has been very thoroughly investigated, and of course, as a precaution to ensure that the infrastructure outside the bushfire zone. So that is gives that much more for comfort. Yes, I endorse it. Just the motion is going to propose the condition 21 for 3 months to be extended to 4 months.
So we're dealing with Amendment 1, which is condition 21, and it's a modification to replace 3 months with a 12-month period. Is there a seconder for Amendment 1? It is seconded Eugene Coltas. Would you like to continue speaking?
The reason for that extension has been I have experience with ERA your license compliance conditions, just ensuring that there is an alignment. And you're right, the decommissioning period is a month on the way, but it is imperative that local government get ample notice, so that if there is any discussions that can happen to prolong the project, etc., the 12 months gives the council more than enough period. So on that, I'd just like to conclude that it's a very good project and very much in line with the state government's current strategy on renewable.
Thank you. Would the seconder of Amendment 1 like to speak to the modification?
Yeah, I think that,
Is there anybody else, any other members wish to speak to Amendment 1, modification of condition 21? There is no further conversation on condition 21. Would you like to close Amendment 1?
Just that I think this has been some amendment to the requirements in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, members. We are going to the vote on Amendment 1, which is modification of condition 21 for a 12-month period. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously for the minute taker. Would you like to continue discussing the substantive motion? Any other speakers on the substantive motion? Like to, if there's no other speakers, I'll speak to the motion. Like others, I am generally supportive of the proposal. I've raised the questions I've already had in relation to some of the concerns that came out of the documentation, but I'm comfortable with the responses that have been provided and have addressed the concerns raised. As most people have already indicated, probably the biggest challenge is the construction period. I did find the documentation provided exceptional. I found it very, very helpful, particularly the inclusion of the diagrams and the intersection information, which helped me understand some of both the scale of the proposal, but also the challenges that you'll have through the construction period. Overall, the operation, once in place, is going to be quite minor in the context of impact on the local area. And I would concur with the comments that have been provided by members that essentially the operation period is a long but really low impact operation, providing substantial benefit. At this juncture, however, I would like to move Amendment 2. The Amendment 2 is directly related to the submission from the applicant, and it is a minor change. The changes are all for 4 conditions: condition 4, condition 8, and condition 10. And the modification is to add the word after landowner or before landowner, after landowner / applicant or operator, I would say applicant. So it actually provides a catch-all in relation to the obligations, noting the information that's been provided as part of this application, that there is an operator that is different from the landowner. So that is my modification. If there is a seconder for that. It is, yes, it is seconded. Yes, have a question.
I think they wanted to replace the word landowner with applicant / operator.
That's not what I'm leaving.
Yes.
I'm leaving it as landowner / operator. And I'll clarify my reasoning for that, is that operators, applicants are not necessarily tied to the land in the same way that the landowner is, and therefore I have left the language of landowner in there to ensure that there is a connection directly back to the land that creates an obligation. So yes, I do understand where applicant has requested that change, but I have not moved that for a particular reason. Hopefully that clarifies the concerns of panel members. So it is really owner applicant from my perspective that I'm proposing as landowner applicant for the modification. It has been seconded by Councillor Chris Connaughton for that amendment 2. Would you like to speak to amendment 2?
I just think that's probably a fairly logical change anyway. The landowner probably doesn't have a lot to do with the land. It's been pretty much signed out by you for you to have control of the land and you've got a very little to running of it anyway. So I think it's a logical change.
Any other members wish to speak on amendment 2?
Yes, I support it. I would imagine that the lease agreement will cover all of those items with the proponents and operators. So,
thank you. Any other speakers? Yes.
Yes, I support that, because not only with the lease, but I do realise when you go through the process of getting your generation license, all these matters will be listed for so I'm comfortable.
Thank you. I have no further comments. So there's no further discussion from my perspective. I will go straight to the vote on Amendment 2, which is for conditions 4, 8 and 10, adding the words landowner and applicant. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I think most of the comments have been already said in relation to this proposal, and I am generally supportive of, or am supportive of the proposal, inclusive of those amendments. Any other members wish to speak on the substantive motion? Wish to speak on the substantive motion? There is no other speakers. We move back to the mover for right of reply and close of debate.
I've got no further comment. I think we've discussed it.
Thank you. Debate has been closed. We are now going to the vote on the substantive motion inclusive of the amendments. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously for the minute taken. There are no Form 2 applications for this site, and there are for this Shire, and there are no Section 31 SAT reconsiderations. There is a list of SAT applications and Supreme Court's listings in the agenda, none of which relate to 3 screens, and I have no comments, and accordingly I close today's meeting at 10:13 a.m. and I would like to thank everybody for your attendance at today's meeting and participation. Thank you.